The dark side of sugar. Did you know that sugar can be as bad for your heart as cigarettes and as bad for your liver as alcohol? Crazy, right? I don't know about you, but I struggle with sugar. Even though I know I should never eat it, it really is good. And so it's hard to avoid, and yet it's so important for your health. In this video, I'm going to jump into sugar and heart disease, inflammation, diabetes, obesity, fatty liver disease, and finally sugar addiction. Sugar and heart disease. A lot of people talk about sugar and obesity, but sugar and heart disease? How does that work? There was a 15-year study out of Harvard which showed that if sugar is just 17 to 21% of your diet, your risk of dying from cardiovascular disease goes up by 38%. Now that's versus somebody where sugars are 7% of their diet. Now, 7%, that couldn't be too hard. 85% of processed foods have sugar in it. Sugar is seeping in, even if you're not taking a spoonful of sugar. And then the occasional candy bar here and there. It all adds up. Even if you say you don't like sweets, sugar's in ketchup. Sugar is actually in blue cheese dressing. It's very hard to figure out how to get away from it. My solution is focus on whole foods. Focus on a lot of vegetables and proteins and healthy fats. Whole foods, by definition, do not have refined sugar in them. An easy way to remember is just stick to the outside wall of the grocery store. Sugar and inflammation. How can those two be related? There's actually a physical process that happens. When you eat a lot of sugar, your insulin goes up. And when your insulin goes up, then your liver clicks in to something called lipogenesis. And when your insulin is high and your liver is producing cholesterol, it is producing the most dangerous cholesterol, that is LDL, which is low density cholesterol, which means it has a low density of protein and a lot of cholesterol in it. And then it deposits those in your arteries. And the second thing that happens is it produces triglycerides. Both of those lead to more inflammation in our body. More of these LDL cholesterols are going around in our body and depositing cholesterol in our arteries, leading to hardening of the arteries, which then makes it harder for blood to flow, which then leads to more inflammation. Free fatty acids get produced by the liver, are inflammatory in nature, can lead to all kinds of inflammation-related disease, like cancer, diabetes, and more. What can you do? The best thing to do is to eat whole foods and avoid fast foods, junk foods, and processed foods. Remember, 85% of processed foods contain refined sugar. It's everywhere. The best thing to do is to just keep it simple and focus on your whole foods. Diabetes and sugar. It seems like they just go hand in hand. Why? Are diabetes and sugar related? Insulin is the answer. And it's not that one time I eat some sugar, my insulin goes up, I digest it, insulin comes back down, we're all good. Insulin is a signaling hormone or a master hormone. So a lot of other things in our body happen when insulin is high. The issue is that as we age, we become insulin resistant. And this means that our insulin stays high even if we're not digesting. When insulin is high, your liver will produce the more dangerous types of cholesterol that deposit cholesterol in our arteries, the LDL, low density of protein, high density of cholesterol, which gets deposited in our arteries. This then leads to hardening of the arteries. All from sugar, all from having insulin resistance. What can we do? A lot of people say diabetes is not reversible. It's not possible. Now, it can be if you catch it early enough. If you're pre-diabetic and you really cut those sugars out, and you may even need to go to the next step and cut out carbohydrates, follow more of an Atkins or a ketogenic diet. It can be done. We are super resilient. Think about different ways that you can cut out sugar, and think about where is sugar in your diet that it's hiding, like in processed foods or fast foods, in ketchup, in blue cheese dressing, in places that you would not expect it. read your labels, and stay on the outside wall of the groceries. 43% of Americans are classified as obese. Am I being mean to blame sugar for this? And why? The worst part of sugar, aside from it being so delicious, is that it's a chemical. And so our bodies don't really recognize it. Different systems in our bodies don't know quite what to do with it. One of the results is we're never full. A fun exercise I play with kids is I take a glass of water and I pour some sugar into it and you mix it up, and then you can do it again and again. And it is amazing how much sugar a single glass of water can absorb. This is very similar to our systems. We keep taking it in and we never get full. Do you feel that? When you take in 1,000 calories of mushrooms or celery, you're way too full to get to 1,000 calories. And yet 1,000 calories of sugar is like a couple candy bars. It's really not that much. We can be hungry again because our insulin is spiked and it's telling us we've got to eat. So what do we do about all of this? You're taking in too many calories, and all of the calories coming in, insulin is high and signaling for you to store all those calories. You add fat to your body and your fat starts acting like an organ. It starts fighting for its own existence when it gets big enough and has more resources. Are we just stuck there? Is it just a self-fulfilling prophecy? One of the great things that you can do, aside from trying to cut sugar, but if that's not working, if you feel like you need something more, is to talk to your doctor about fasting and look into doing multi-day fasts. Dr. Jason Fung has said that this is the way to change your weight set point. He has done a tremendous amount of work with people, helping them through what seems like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sugar and fatty liver disease. Wait a minute. Fat and carbs, I thought they're totally different. Yes and no. Our bodies are really resilient. They don't trust us to do the right thing every day, which is probably correct. Our bodies set up these systems. So if you go on a complete no-fat diet, your liver then produces cholesterol, as does your brain. These same processes that are intact to help us, i.e. the liver producing cholesterol, which helps us with our cell membranes and other uses for cholesterol in our body. But these same processes, when we take in a bunch of sugar, can go off kilter. What do I mean by that? There's something called lipogenesis, the liver producing cholesterol. When we take in sugar, our insulin goes up, and then the cholesterol that gets produced by the liver is the most dangerous type of cholesterol. The second thing that happens that's more special to sugar is that the fructose component of sugar is something our bodies don't quite know what to do with. With sucrose, there are many different uses for it, and it can be stored as fat in many different places. With fructose, it really needs to be either used right away, like for exercise and energy, or it gets stored around the liver, which then makes the liver less functional and creates something called fatty liver disease. I thought fructose was in fruits too. It is, but it's lower concentrations. We're taking in fiber, and I still do recommend looking at how much fruit you take in. But sugar can really deliver a lot of fructose, as can things like high fructose corn syrup, which is a whole new level of evil. What can we do? When I talk about what sugar can do to your liver in terms of depositing all these fats and creating something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, I'm talking about sugar damaging your liver to the same extent as alcohol abuse can damage your liver. So it's serious stuff. And what we can do is focus on whole foods and focus on getting our inflammation down. And how do you do that? Through nutrition. You do that by avoiding fast foods, junk foods, and processed foods, 85% of which have sugar in them. Sugar addiction. Is that just a thing that we use to blame something else for the fact that we can't stop eating sugar? Interestingly, the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, now says that you do not have to have massive physical withdrawals the way that you would with a drug of abuse, to still say that you have an addiction. What are some of the signs of sugar addiction? The more that you eat, the more you eat the next day. One day you have one candy and the next day a little more, and you're not really satisfied. You have a little bit more each day. It takes more and more effort to stop eating sugar. You were eating whole foods, you eat a little bit of sugar and then you catch yourself and go back to whole foods, versus eating sugar for a month or a year and then trying to stop. And it takes more effort to cut it out. The more that you have of it, that's another sign. Hiding use, thinking about what kind of treat we want to have, or one dessert, what's it going to be and where are you going to get it? It's not that we want to feel bad about ourselves for being addicted to sugar. It's to understand that this is difficult. It's difficult for me to avoid it. It's difficult for you. It's everywhere. And there are large marketing programs of processed food companies trying to get you to believe that sugar will make you happy, that sugar will make you relax, that chocolate will make you feel loved. All of these things are set up to try to get us to eat more sugar because they know it's addictive, and that's good for their bottom line, but it may not be good for our bottom lines. So what to do? Many cravings pass in 10 to 15 minutes. And so if you can distract yourself physically and also mentally for those 10 to 15 minutes, that will get you on your way. Go for a walk and connect with a friend. Now, don't go for a walk and think about that cupcake for the whole 15 minutes. If we think, just don't think about sugar, then you'll think about sugar the whole time. So instead, give yourself something else to think about. Give yourself someone else to talk to connect, to build resilience against the evil sugar. What will you change about your relationship with sugar? What will you do differently? Did you know that sugar and heart disease were related? Did you realize how much inflammation it creates? Or the pathways to diabetes and obesity can cause as much harm to your liver as alcohol? Yes, it can be an addiction, but there are solutions. Will you try intermittent fasting or fasting? Will you focus more on whole foods? What did you get out of this? I'd love to hear any questions and ideas for other things that you'd like me to cover. I hope you like this video. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. And check out my other videos. To join the best conversations on your health, you can find me in these channels on social media.